Hey everyone, welcome to the Wealth Preservation Podcast. As always, Mark Seither and joined by Josh Saunders. Josh, how are you doing and where are you recording from today?
Hey Mark, how's it going, man? Well, I'm recording from our new / vacation home in outside of Knoxville, Tennessee in the Great Smoky Mountains. So we're here having an investment property and we're working on it. And remodeling a house is so fun. I just love it. It's a joy. It's a lot of fun. It's also called a marriage stress test. So we're doing okay, though, which is good.
Yeah.
So our kids are having fun. They get to bang lots of hammers and nails and make lots of noise. So it's been good.
Yeah.
But, hey, we're excited to have Laura Meier on of the Meier Law Firm. And we're really excited to dive into kind of her journey and how her and her husband Josh got their law firm started and kind of how that goes. So we're excited. Welcome, Laura.
Thanks for having me. I didn't know you were in Tennessee. That's very cool.
Yeah. Yes. We're here for the time being. So we got some investment stuff going on back here. So we're kind of getting that up and going. And then, yeah, we'll see where we land next after that.
They kind of did the Tour de USA last year with, COVID shutting everything down and they're not being able to, really put their kids in school. They're like, yeah, let's RV across America. And then they found out that Tennessee is pretty awesome. They bought an investment property. So.
Oh, wow. That is cool.
Yeah.
Well,
and I was at baseball practice last night with no masks on. It was pretty amazing for our kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I was at a soccer game on the field with a full mask on, even though we weren't playing. Yes. We were outside, social distance. We all had to have masks.
Yes. Well,
for another episode.
That is not our episode today.
That is not what we're talking about.
So today we're really going to get to know you, your firm, and how you got started as an entrepreneur. And just real quick, tell us a little bit about what you guys do and where you guys are located.
So Josh and I have an estate planning law firm in Newport Beach, California, so in Southern California. And basically, we help families make sure that they would be taken care of and their assets if anything unexpected should happen.
Yeah. And, we've known the Meier firm for quite some time, and I really love that Laura is really passionate on the special needs trust, and she's really taken that banner up, which is really cool. For me, personal story, I have a young cousin. He's not young anymore, but she has cerebral palsy, and I know my aunt and uncle did a bunch of planning there, and so that's something near and dear to my heart. So thank you so much for taking that up. That's kind of protecting those that aren't always protected. So that's a very cool thing.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite areas within my field is when I get to do the special needs planning. And I don't know if you know this, Josh, but I was actually on the board for United Cerebral Palsy for 6 years, and it was a very cool experience. So that's great.
If you want to make yourself feel either lazy, go to a Special Olympics and watch everybody run. It's an amazing experience. You can't have a bad day after going to one of those things. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, those kids always inspire me. They try so hard. They're always like reaching new heights, and the families are just incredible. Even like their siblings, all of the family. So it's a very cool field to be in.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, Mark, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, well, and on top of having a very successful estate planning practice in a absolutely gorgeous part of the USA, Newport Beach, not a bad location. You've also done a lot in the marketing. You're an author. I mean, you're really to say, hey, we're just estate planners is, I believe, selling yourself short just in like how much work you guys actually put into getting on TV, running workshops, running boot camps. Not to mention mom of 4 kids, and it's a full-time gig all around. So, but today is going to be more about your origin story, right? So first we want to find out, hey, did 8-year-old Laura say, hey, I'm going to be an author and an entrepreneur, and I'm going to run a Newport Beach office, or did you have that entrepreneurial drive, or where did that all start?
I think when I was 8, I was hopefully dreaming of being a doctor's wife. So I don't know what happened. Now I have a career. But no, I mean, I was always, kind of fascinated by people in leadership positions. And I remember, watching on TV like women lawyers or women news anchors, kind of seeing these women in the professional world and that always kind of sparked my interest. But I'll tell you what was cool is when I was actually in high school, I remember going to Huntington Beach has like this kind of really big 4th of July parade. And I remember going and the crowd stopped cheering. And there was a woman marching by shaking the very few hands in the crowd that were extended to her. And I said to my parents, I said, who is that? And they said, her name is Loretta Sanchez. And I said, well, why isn't anyone cheering for her? And they said, well, she's running for Congress, and she's, running for a certain party, and Huntington Beach was the other party, if you will. And it was really cool because I remember at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, like she can run for Congress. And after that, it was like this sky's the limit. And she actually won. But it was a really cool moment. And so I would say like definitely seeing that and seeing like a woman kind of break through to something I thought was totally off limits just opened the doors for my own interest.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you always want to be an attorney? Was that always, or, not doctor's wife, but is that, I want to go to law school?
Yeah. My parents say I always did because I was always arguing with them,
right.
Which was true, very strong-willed. I always had a strong interest in the law. And originally I thought I wanted to be a district attorney, like a prosecutor, which is funny because like if I hear Law and Order come on in the criminal justice system, I'm like, get it off. I hate that stuff. I only want to watch like romantic comedies. So I did a summer internship in college at the DA. I still can't burn the images from my head that I had to see. And, I was like, this is not for me. But, what was cool is just the DAs that I worked with, they were like, no, there's so many other fields of law. And, so they were great mentors to me. And so I did end up going on to law school, obviously, and, starting my career from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was there anyone else, whether it was your parents or anyone who you just kind of looked to as like, hey, they don't work for anyone. They work for themselves. And I kind of want to be like that person, or anyone who kind of encouraged you. They're like, hey, Laura, if you want to work for someone else, it's fine, but you really could take this on and do everything yourself as well.
I didn't originally want to work for myself. So when I got out of law school, I worked for a mid-sized firm, and then I joined a major law firm. So I was taking more of the traditional route as an attorney, but really it was life circumstances where that just wasn't working for me and my husband, Josh, because he was a lawyer too. And it was like, we were starting to have all these kids and, who's on the kids, and I have to work, you have to work. And even though I was part-time, that just meant I was overloaded in 2 places. So it just, it kind of led us to saying, look, we need a change. This isn't what we want for our family. We want to really be here to raise our kids and have flexibility. And so really becoming an entrepreneur was really like the solution to a problem we were having, not necessarily something that like I wanted to do.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that's always the beauty of being an entrepreneur or owning your own business, because you do have the lows, which are running a business and, all that stuff. But you do get to choose what 60 or 70 hours a week you want to work, right? Like, and when.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Because when you are the boss, obviously you can build your team. You can have other people working for you. I mean, my husband and I, it was like, the other day during the work week, and we're walking, up a trail, and you still have those moments where you're like, should I be hiking on a Tuesday morning? But then you remember, like, well, no, because you should, because you have everybody else is working, and we've done our part, and we've scheduled things out, so it's okay to do that. So it does provide us a lot more flexibility. And I don't want to sugarcoat it, of course, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, that, there's a journey to building things to get to that kind of peak of the mountain where you can enjoy more of your life and have more time to yourself. But, if you do it right, it's definitely something that you can build around the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah. Not to mention being like, I got to go to Costco. When is everyone else at work? Because those are the best times to go. I mean, I made the mistake of accidentally going to Costco on a weekend one time, and I was like, why are there so many people? Like, this is, it's never this busy.
You had to fight them for the free meatball sample.
Oh.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, they don't do, they haven't done free samples for a long time now.
That's true.
Back off, Ethel. You're second time in line. I know that.
Yes. You're like, you don't need 5 samples. You don't need 5 meatball samples. Yeah. Yes.
Oh no, Josh, I'm surprised his picture's not on the wall at Costco as like a sample offender. He just goes, I'm like, you can buy those dino chicken nuggets that we would never eat.
Yes.
What I don't understand, like I've seen a couple times, someone walks up, they're like, "Hey, I need 5 of these," and I'm like, "This isn't takeout." Like,
ordering.
What you need? Like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's usually when it's like the Adele's sausage, right? I mean, those are that's
and it's like always stuff that you'd never really eat in real life, and it's embarrassing. You run into someone and you're like, I'm just a second, I'm trying to get like this imported Korean barbecue real quick.
Right. Yeah. I will never buy this these Hot Pockets, but they're kind of good at Costco. Yeah. So kind of, you did you grow up in Southern California, or did you
I did. I grew up right here in Orange County.
Very cool. And then did you go to school in Orange County and go to college in Orange County also?
So I went to undergrad at Long Beach State, so which borders Orange County. And I played the first couple years on the women's soccer team, which was cool.
Oh, very cool.
And then
that's awesome.
I went to law school at BYU in Utah.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
And then back to California.
So what was that cultural difference like going from Southern California to Utah at BYU? It's a gorgeous campus though.
Yeah, you know what? I absolutely loved the BYU Law School. When you're in law school, you're not really out and about. So I always joke that we used to go skiing every year in Utah. So I packed my skis. I was so excited when I was going to law school in Utah. I did not ski once. And if there was a movie that came out between 2000 and 2003, I didn't even see it or know about it.
Right.
So, I was on the campus a lot just on the law school, but it was a really cool environment. There was so much academic freedom at BYU. You could really look at issues from all sides of the equation, which was really surprising. Especially coming out of my undergrad, where you actually didn't quite have that, academic freedom to discuss things. So it was a great experience. And, it's a top law school. So they have, the best teachers in the country.
Sure.
Very nice people. So I actually really enjoyed my time. I loved the snow the first week. And after that, I was crying for Southern California and the beach. So I actually moved back the day after I graduated, so I could have a nice summer in California.
Yes, snow gets old very quick.
And I mean, snow is amazing. But so when my wife lived in, and I lived in San Diego, she would sometimes complain, as many Southern Californians do, when the weather fluctuates by 7 or 8 degrees. She was like, I wish there were seasons, and I'm like, let's be happy that we're stuck in the good one, though.
Right.
Like if you're gonna get a permanent season, just be like, oh man, it's gonna get up to 78 today. Woo, that's warm.
Yeah. I know. I don't miss sliding through stop signs in the snow because I didn't know how to drive. Luckily, I had my California plates though, so I just slide through everything, and people just let me go.
Yeah. So you're at BYU and you're studying law, and you worked at the DA's office or interned at the DA's office. Were you always going to go to estate planning, or did it kind of evolve into that? But you said you went to corporate law after that.
No. And so I joined a mid-sized law firm in Central California, and almost immediately I got made the lead city attorney of a small town, which was huge. Normally you have to have a ton of experience to do that, but because I wasn't at the huge law firm in New York City or wherever, I got an opportunity to really do something hands-on right away. So that was a very cool experience, and I did that for several years. And then I actually joined a major law firm when I moved back down to Newport Beach, near where I grew up. I grew up in Westminster. Which when you grow up in Westminster, you always want to move to Newport Beach. So I moved here, and I did that job, but it just wasn't conducive to the lifestyle and flexibility that my husband and I needed.
Yeah.
So I had actually switched. Switched fields completely.
So are the rumors true about, especially in big corporate law, it's 80, 90 hour a week. So that's not out of the norm.
I guess, and again, this was, several years ago, so I can't speak to how big law firm is now. You know, my understanding is it's still pretty intense from my friends that are in it. But, you know, the challenge is, and this was my challenge kind of at the law firm I was at, it wasn't that they weren't willing to offer a reduced schedule for people who maybe had, you know, family priorities. It's just that when you do that, you don't get the big in the good opportunities. You're kind of more in a help role, and maybe the scrap things that people don't want to do. And, you know, and it's not a knock. It's, you know, some of these big jobs, you know, require a lot of attention. So it's just the makeup of it. It just really isn't conducive to having a really quality career at the same time as having that quality outside life that maybe you need or want.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was my experience. Other people might say, I don't know what she's talking about. I've had a great experience. So you can interview them.
Well, as you were making that shift, right? Because I'm sure some people saw like, hey, you know, there may have been like a, hey, she's, you know, top lawyer. She's, you know, kicking butt. When you decided to, hey, I'm going to go the entrepreneur route, did you have some people that were just like, Laura, stop, pump the brakes, really think about this first? Or did you have people who were just like, hey, I think you're making the right decision. That's awesome. Keep going.
Yeah.
Not so much when I did it. I felt that way. I felt, you know, I had gone from feeling so far ahead of the game, having been made a city attorney so early on with these opportunities, to now making my own marketing flyers, figuring out a whole new area of law, retraining. So I'm actually the one who was thinking, what have I done? This is a huge mistake. But not really any outside pressure. I think everybody who knew me at the time understood, like, you know, wow, she keeps getting pregnant. Her husband works a lot. Like everybody understood. I think what kind of raised eyebrows is more so when my husband then left his steady job to come join up with me. I do remember my dad was a little concerned, hoping we'd have a steady paycheck. But, you know, I remember my dad said, you know, I talked to Josh, you know, my Josh, and he said, he made a really good point. He said, when you work for somebody else, you're always just 2 weeks away from no more paycheck because you can be fired. So he said, I would much rather work for myself where I could control my income. And, you know, he made it sound like we'd have more job security by creating something ourselves, which when you know, in the infancy stages, security is not there. But ultimately, if you create it right, it is, you know, you do have more security.
Sure.
Well, your Josh is also an attorney, so he knows how to word things to, you know, make it a strong case. Which he's not wrong. Yeah. It's just, it is one of those things where it's like in the infancy stage, you wake up in a panic all the time. So.
Oh my gosh, all the time. I will not ever forget. In fact, in my book, The Family Nest Egg, I write about the first couple of years of when we created our law firm and built this business and kind of the offshoot businesses that have come from that. And it was very, very hard. And a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of drained bank accounts. So I won't pretend that it was easy. And we, you know, everything was self-funded, you know, from my husband and I. So we didn't even take out loans to start the business. So it was quite the journey.
But at the same time, because you also have a pretty incredible story about your student loans, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's something that you've also focused on in some of your books and some of the things that you work with people in. Can you go into a little bit on, you know, I feel like student loans are something that keep people from chasing what they really want to do, right? And you guys have kind of a cool story of like, no, we buckled down and we just said, hey, we have to do this. We can't keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and you know, everybody feels differently, right, about their student loans. Like I have a neighbor, for example, just he makes so much money, like he's fine, but he feels like, hey, you know, those don't hold me back. It's such a low interest rate. I don't even care. I don't even think about it. Well, I felt differently because for me, it was a mental thing of feeling like as long as I have this debt, like what if everything, I always think about that. Well, what if we lost everything? Well, with student loans, you can't even discharge that in a bankruptcy typically, right? It's like always there. And it's just something where I felt too, like we have 4 kids. I want to be saving for their college. How am I going to be saving for that when I'm paying on this? So I couldn't even just shift the focus. And then, I mean, as we were just getting older, it just bothered me that they were there. It is like this ball and chain. And so, you know, after, you know, we were credit card free, And after, I want to say that we had first paid off our car payments that have the higher interest rate. Then we really tackled the student loans. And so that was something where we just threw huge chunks of money on them until they were finally paid off. And it's not something Josh and I agreed on. He actually wanted to keep them because of the low interest rate. He thought it was, from a financial standpoint, didn't make sense. But for me, it was a mental thing. I didn't want them. I already received my education. I wanted that chapter closed. I wanted to be able to focus on a 15-year mortgage. So I just decided that we were going to do it, and Josh went along. But despite our disagreements,
smart man.
Yeah, smart man. But despite the disagreements, the one thing we did agree on in the end is like it was awesome being student loan free.
Yeah,
right. For
sure. So it does feel good not to have that holding us back.
Yeah. Which how long did it take you guys to pay those off?
So it didn't take us overly long. It was less for us. I think it was like maybe a year time frame. But keep in mind, when we tackled that, we were making, already our business was built up, so we were bringing in an income. Yeah.
But it still took some time. It wasn't like you got to write a check overnight and just be like, oh, look, we have so much. Yeah,
it did take time, and it did require us, and it did require us to continue to live below our means. And that's kind of what we've always done since setting up a budget, when we were starting the business and getting out of debt and paying off debt to get to where we were. It has always required us to, understand that like debt is not something you should carry around. So no matter how much money you're bringing in, if you have that debt, like you're not in the clear. Like you have to pay off your debt. And so that meant not getting tempted to go, lease a Range Rover or even, get a bigger house or whatever it is, to understand that as long as that debt is there, that needs to be the priority.
Yeah, and we'll get some of this into the second episode because this is great stuff. But we always talk about, as advisors, we talk about that the mental part of debt. It's it weighs on you, right? Like you said, it's like carrying around a burden that people don't realize, and it's just like it's always there.
Yeah,
it's like going back to school.
It should weigh on you.
Sure, right? Well,
and there is the math side, right? Because there is the like, hey, I've calculated the math, and it makes sense for us to pay it off slowly, but we're emotional beings, right? I mean, we can't separate ourselves from the and people who are not emotional beings,
Well, and I've always said, I mean, yes, of course, there's a calculated strategy to using debt or leveraging things, like, of course, and many people do that very successfully. But the truth is that most people are not in debt because they have a calculated strategy. They're in debt because they're spending too much, and that debt doesn't bother them enough. And they're thinking, about using their money on things that maybe they don't absolutely need.
Those Coachella tickets are not a calculated strategy.
There you go.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's good. So I want to circle back real quick. And so you have 4 kids. And so what is, you're with you guys, you and Josh as parents and you as a mom, how do you shape that entrepreneurial, or do you talk to your kids about being entrepreneurs, or kind of how does that kind of come up, or are you like, oh, you got to go to college and do the whole and go get a corporate job? I mean, how does that kind of come up in your guys' family?
Well, I feel sorry for my kids because talking about business in life is as common as talking about what we're going to watch on the Disney Channel that night. So they hear too much, especially during COVID. In fact, they even chime in with their opinions on things now. And, I have to always tell them, like, when you grow up, don't forget, never marry someone that you're in business with, but, we do talk to them a lot. And I think it's cool because like they see the pros and cons. And I mean, we joke because our older son, who's 16, saw us create the business from nothing, from the kitchen table. versus our younger child who's 8 is all he's ever known is like, you know, a trip to go skiing and
right.
you know, he goes to private school. So I mean, totally a little bit different lifestyles of what they've seen. But we do try and talk with them a lot. And, you know, obviously like all parents, like you want your kids to grow up and find like what their like God-given path is in life. And if they're meant to be entrepreneurs, like we will support them. And if they're called to do something else in life, I'm sure we'll support them too. But I will say we are a little traditional in the sense that we've told our kids, because they'll say like, well, if I have this, then I don't have to go to college. Like if I have this business. So we've told them, sure, if you're self-made and you have at least $10 million by the time you start college, you don't have to go.
We will sign off on that.
Yeah,
and you can live off the interest it generates the rest of your life, and so you don't have to go.
It's back to that calculated strategy. Yeah. Calculated strategy to not go to college.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, shifting a little bit more into some of the other things that you've done, right? So 4 kids, you know, building a firm from your kitchen table, and then you've also, you know, authored a couple books, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this is also something where a lot of, you know, I'd say aspiring entrepreneurs at this point, or you know, people who want to write books or want to get into a certain thing. What was the catalyst that pushed you to be like, hey, you know what? I have these opinions. I have this knowledge. I have to write it down. I've got to share it with people.
You know, it was kind of this overwhelming feeling all the time that I had these books inside of me and I just had to write them. And feeling like it would be such a shame, even if only my kids, which thankfully, actually, they're the only ones who probably don't read it. But, you know, as they get older, hopefully they'll read it. But I wanted to make sure that, you know, I had that. And obviously, I can't sit with everybody one-on-one in a client, you know, attorney capacity and help them. So I figured a book is a great way just to help other couples or other individuals out there who are like us, who are like, gosh, you know, we have, you know, we're having our family, we have these dreams, we have the lifestyle that we hope for. How do we get there? And so I really wanted to be able to share with them kind of our journey and then just my expertise within my field of dealing with finances and estate planning and help them be able to do that. So that was kind of the push for me to write the book, which I'm glad, like I'm so glad that I did it and I'm glad it's out there.
Yeah. What was that kind of creative process like? I mean, for you, I mean, was it a lot of work? Did it see it come easier? Were there parts that were really easy and parts that were really hard? What parts of those?
Well, so my first book was self-published, and so that was much easier because really what I was doing in that sense is just writing out more so the workshop I was already giving a lot of the place, and I would just stay up late and kind of write it, and it was a more simple process because I kind of paid to have it published, and I did that book more with the purpose of, you know, when people come in for estate planning, I could give them the book, they could get more knowledge. It also provided credibility and expertise. The second book, which it was not self-published, that was actually done. I picked up from a literary agency who pitched me to the different houses, got me the book deal, and then got picked up again for the audiobook version with Penguin Random House, and I did the recording with them. So that was a whole completely different process. And writing that book was actually more challenging because the family nest egg doesn't just cover my area of expertise as an estate planning attorney, but it covers like your field, financial planning, it covers buying a home, it covers paying off debt, investing, and taxes. So it did require me to learn and consult with a lot of different professionals so families could kind of get that turnkey guide for all those financial things and protections they're supposed to be doing as a family.
Yeah. It is crazy how complicated that world is, right? Once you start dissecting it, you're like, wow, there's a lot of pieces to this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you can understand why people feel a bit paralyzed. They're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. They're confused on who they should go to because it does encompass you having to build a, star, and that's what I call them in the book, like a star team of players where you're going to the right people for the certain expertise you need, and they're communicating. Your team is with each other, and nothing's getting left off the table. So the goal of the book was just to put that all on their radar, readers' radar, so they understood everything that they need to be doing as parents of a growing family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which another tough part about that, I think that's a big difference between what people typically experience in the business field or in the professional field versus, someone who has a heart a heart that wants to serve. You were thinking, hey, I have all this information. I just want everyone to have it right here. Take the information. Where a lot of people are like, hey, I have the keys. Book a meeting, and I will. I promise you, I'll take you where you want to go. Just trust me, and in 20 years, you'll be happy. But until then,
I mean, I think one of the reasons our firm has been successful, in the book was successful, is, we try not to come in with a salesman mentality. We know that people need this. So, I mean, what we offer kind of sells itself, if you will. Like everybody needs to, grow their finances, pay off debts, and protect their kids.
Right.
So, in that sense, I don't mind sharing that knowledge, and, people become clients when they need us, and, not everybody needs a professional right away. Sometimes they just need someone to help them set some goals until they get to that point. So, I really did want to do it to just help, other families understand what they need to do.
Yeah. And real quick, can you plug the names of your books, and we'll have links in the episode description.
Sure. Yeah. The first book is Good Parents Worry, Great Parents Plan, and that's available on Amazon. That was my self-published book. And this is my new one, my baby, The Family Nest Egg. And so, what is it? The Complete and Proven Financial Guide to Building Long-Term Wealth and Security. So this one you can get at all major book retailers. So you can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's sold out at Target, which was cool.
Nice.
Yeah, you can get it at Walmart. And if you go into the Barnes and Noble locations, you can also get them inside the stores there. Yeah.
Next time we go to Barnes and Noble, I'll look.
Yeah. Or next time I'm at Target, because we seem to frequent that a lot more often now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and I forgot. I have to plug. Or you can download it if you'd like to listen to it at Penguin Random House at their website. And I read it. I did the author narration myself, so you can hear me read my entire book.
What was that experience like? Sorry,
gosh, it was so cool. Like Penguin Random House does not mess around. They had a whole team. They have so much audio control and then more control. They give you a director. If you mispronounce a word, you go back, you read it. And so it was like a voice marathon. I could not yell at my kids during the recordings. I had to save my voice.
Yeah.
But no, it was a cool experience, and I'm pleased they did a great job.
That's very cool.
Well, if I ever get to the point where I'm reading an audiobook, I'm going to be asking like, hey, could you like turn down kind of the nasally sound and make me a little bit more Pierce Brosnan, Brosnan-y?
I know. Everyone though, I guess, is self-conscious of their voice pretty much. So I never thought I had like a great voice, but they were fine. And if you have the right mics, it can pick up the right tone.
Yeah. So I want to kind of jump onto the marketing part of the firm, and I'll use the term monster in a very good way, but you're the Meier firm, you're kind of a marketing monster in a great way. And so how did you kind of develop that skill, and how did you kind of go down that path? Was it something you strategically planned out, or was it kind of you kind of just did a lot of research and found the right path? Because that field's always changing.
Well, yeah, with any business, you want to stand out, and there's a lot of competition, especially in places like Orange County. I mean, there's tons of estate planning attorneys here, and there's also a ton of need. There's a lot of people who live here who need services. And so, for us, marketing early on was key to making sure that we had that consistency in bringing in clients and building that pipeline. And the more you go on, obviously, and the more you're known in an industry, you don't have to you don't have to like market as much or as frequently. You kind of find what works for you, so the word is out there. But yeah, we did have to, burn through a few different marketing programs to see what worked. And what I would say now, looking back, is there's usually not one single channel of marketing that's working. There's usually kind of different buckets you figure out to make it rain. And one bucket might be great. Yeah. One bucket might be great, 1 year, and then, just the consumer is getting information a different way. And so that dries out. That's why you need the other ones. And to just figure out how to constantly be getting the word out, because you guys know, I mean, just going online, you get targeted constantly by different companies getting your attention. And so, at the end of the day, though, I will say the best marketing you can do is to just provide an outstanding experience to whatever small or large amount of clients that you have. That's the key. Followed up, of course, by different, marketing channels so word can spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what were kind of some of those ones that you used, and what were kind of some of those early, kind of failures, or like, wow, that just fell flat, or you're like, that worked better or as good as we thought it was going to?
So the one thing I'll say is, I think kind of the wrong assumption people can make is they think, oh, I'm going to open an ice cream shop or an estate planning law firm, whatever it is, and all of my friends and family will come and use me. They've all said they love ice cream or they need an estate plan, whatever it is, and they're all just going to spend the money and come over and support me. Well, yes and no. So, of course, some people will use you, and they'll probably want a discount, by the way, if they do know you that well. So some people will come, but the bulk of your business will be from people who have never heard of you. And so it really is your job to make sure that you've conveyed that credibility, that you can deliver that work product that they're expecting, and that it's going to be better than what they're going to get from somebody else. And it's going to be at the right value for them, and that they'll see the value. Not the cheapest, but it has to provide them the greatest value. And so, anyway, I don't even remember what was your question.
What were some of the marketing things that you tried?
Oh, like what we did? Yeah. So that was what, I guess, the marketing technique of thinking people would use us was not the best one. Really, what we did is I was part early on of a program that an attorney out of Los Angeles would sell to people because she had already built a successful estate planning law firm. And she started this program where she would provide, some of the things she did to build her business. So I purchased that, and that was great because it was from somebody that already did it, and it was already proven to work in something that was similar to, LA, Orange County, something a bit similar in terms of demographics. So that was fantastic. And really, for me, a lot of the stuff I was doing at that time, because this was before, it was back in 2010. So it was, I don't want to say the internet wasn't huge then. Of course it was, but it was like a little bit, it was different, right, than it is now. I don't think people were finding everything online as much then like they are now. Like now it feels almost exclusively online. But I did a lot of workshops. So that required me to kind of hustle and build connections, go out and speak at places, and people would come and hear me speak. And again, the message sold itself, and then they'd want to get an estate plan. So workshops is still something that I do a lot in the community. And I do it too, at this point, a lot of it, not just to bring in clients, but really as just a community service, because I'll speak at even areas a lot of times where I'm not going to be reaching someone who's, paying a Newport Beach attorney, for example. So it is a way of just, getting the education out and helping the community. But workshops is a big one. And then I think early on, that was probably the biggest one. Now things have changed. I will tell you with online, we've done different strategies, but I would say that your reputation online is critical. People do look at that, and that can, if you do have a good reputation, that can bring in a lot of clients.
Yeah, gotcha.
I kind of want to save more marketing stuff for the second episode because really dive into that and to kind of round out this episode because you kind of talked about your team of star players, right, on the financial front. From a business standpoint, and we can kind of end on this high note. When you were building your star players for running your business, what advice would you have to, aspiring entrepreneurs or maybe struggling entrepreneurs of like, hey, here are the people that you have to have. Like you have to be able to fire yourself and bring someone else on to do these things so it can free up your time to do something more productive.
I think that's a delicate dance because I don't think in the beginning, if you actually try and bring on too many star players too quickly, unless you have unlimited capital, which most people don't, you can run out of money. Right. So that's something, I would look at it more as building your star team of players as you're going along. So when I started out, I was doing everything. The first thing I always recommend that people have is someone who answers their phone. And that was a tip from the, and by the way, the marketing program that I used was Allie Katz's program for estate planning lawyers. But anyway, she had said that, and that was such a great tip, is somebody needs to be answering your phone, especially in this day and age. It can't be going to voicemail. Even if it's off-site reception, they should be able to communicate when you'll get back to them and that. So that would be kind of the first thing I recommend, is that people have someone who's doing that. So people,
gotcha.
So if any of our listeners are in the Gen Z category, just take note of that. Answer your phone. You're going to stand out. So.
Yes. Don't send people to voicemail, or worse, don't say this voicemail is full.
Oh my gosh.
No one could even, because you're just losing out. A lot of people, are doing that. So they could still call in. So I would recommend having someone do that. And then obviously, I actually recommend that you have a really great accountant, so that you're getting all of the tax benefits that are available to you. A lot of people, for example, they might not incorporate because they think they don't want to pay the fees associated with it, especially here in California. But they don't realize that potentially then they're losing out on other protections or tax benefits. They don't realize that when they own their own business, that they might be able to deduct the purchase cost of a car that weighs over 6,000 pounds. And so there's all these little things they might not realize, and they're losing out on money. So that, and then obviously I recommend that you have a financial advisor, somebody that can help you lay all of this out with the funding, because as you're growing your business, it doesn't mean that all those other needs you have of saving for your retirement or kids' colleges, that doesn't go away. And so having a great relationship with your numbers and with your advisor to help you on that journey is going to be key to making sure that you can get through those infancy years. That's when most businesses fail. And there's a lot of different reasons businesses fail, but not having a strong relationship with advisors and those numbers is probably the biggest.
Which is super funny. I mean, I'm sure our listeners are tired of hearing Josh and I say this, but I just want to remind them that we only repeat what our guests are saying, and every guest we have brings up, well, make sure you're protected and your taxes are in order, right? Like those are like, before focusing on like, oh, the funding, the finances, like how are we going to do this? It's like, make sure you're protected and you're not bleeding out in taxes. Those are like, and even on a personal side too, right? Like personal financial planning, make sure you're protected and you're not bleeding out in taxes. So
there you go. Another
it is the
key starting place.
Listen to Laura Meier, people. Listen to Laura. That's why she's on here.
Awesome.
Yeah. So one last question on the entrepreneur side, and this is something you work with your spouse, so that has what were some of those challenges? You don't have to get super personal, but what were some of those challenges? Or if Josh isn't listening, you can totally make fun of him, and we'll tease him about it later. But is he sitting there?
No, he's at the office.
I'm joking. Yeah. No, but what were some of those challenges, right? Because that can be a really awesome thing, and it can also be super challenging at the same time.
Well, working with your spouse, I would say the pros are you avoid probably the profits fight that a lot of partners have, where who brought in what and who's getting what cut. For us, it all goes to the same four little money sucks, which are our kids. So you can avoid that. I think that the biggest challenge Josh and I have had is obviously, we're both attorneys. We both like to take charge and get things done, and we don't always have the same, vision for how things should be done. And so the more we could clearly separate out roles, the better. So that way there is kind of a decision maker on that piece. And this is something where we haven't cracked the code. Like we still have arguments over work and disagreements on how things should be done or how money should be spent or, whatever it is. But I have found that when it works best is when we have the clearly defined rules. We're both being accountable. And then, you know, making sure that it's not bleeding over into the marriage, which can be hard, you know, because you have a disagreement over work, and it's very hard to like then, you know, at night not remember that you kind of hate that person. So yeah. So that's
fine. We'll just have spaghetti.
Yeah. And then just trying not to talk about work when you're, you know, focusing on the relationship or whatever. You know, so it is something that, you know, sometimes we're doing it better than others, but that's always the goal, is to kind of separate it out a bit. But it can be wonderful in many ways to work with your spouse, because the flip side out too is it removes some of that fighting over who's doing what, because you're not like, oh, my husband has to work late, I'm so mad. You're like, oh, good, now I don't have to, because they're picking up the slack, so you don't have to be there. And you don't have to wonder, like, are they really working, or are they just golfing at work today? You're like, no, they were working. I saw them all day.
All day.
So it gives you a better understanding a little bit of what is on your spouse's plate throughout the day.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you know, last question, then we can kind of wrap up into our speed round. But do any of those battles of, like, you know, disagreements of how to do things business wise, do they ever come down to rock, paper, scissors?
No.
Okay. Like, okay,
no.
Fairest way we can do this. Let's go.
There's something much worse. It's called the couch. That's what they come down to. No. You know, usually, no. You know, one thing I do recommend, and this could be for any business partners, even when they're not married. It is very helpful having outside third parties to go to if you truly are stuck. So there, you know, we have a great business coach, for example, that we can go to get another perspective on a problem. We have people on our team or people who support our team with expertise that we can go to if we're truly not on the same page. And even, you know, personal resources and support that we could talk to a third party if we're not on the same page. And you know, I will say there are things that we are not on the same page, and it does help when you use somebody to kind of come in and help just bring a different perspective and take some of the emotions out of it.
Right. Yeah. Good. Great stuff.
Perfect.
That's really good.
Well, we can go into our speed round and then we'll wrap this up.
This
really...
isn't like speed math or anything, is it?
No.
Okay. I've been having to do that with my 8-year-old. I'm like, I don't know, 9 times 6, 54. I'm like trying so hard. So
C. Okay. The answer's always C.
Yeah, exactly.
So, first speed round question. What advice would you give pre-high school Laura?
Oh my gosh. Pay more attention in high school. It actually matters because it determines where you go to college.
Good. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. I like it. Okay, question number 2. What is the biggest misconception or lie that entrepreneurs tell themselves?
That it'll be easy and everything will just turn out.
Yeah, if you just work harder, everything will be fine. You don't have to pay attention to this. Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah. That'll work out. Yeah.
The money will
just
come.
It'll just show up in the bank account. That's a good one. Yeah. I like that.
Not exactly business related, but if you could immediately acquire one talent or one skill, what would it be?
Oh, singing or dancing, something other than law.
Singing, dancing, basket weaving, something not law.
Not law. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So if you and Josh had no work, no contact with the outside world, and no budget restrictions, 1 week, where are you going and why?
Okay, I just know we're not camping. So what do you know? There's no hotel workers or anything?
Well, you
like
know,
nobody
no,
bring any towels or
no kids, no anything.
Yeah, no kids, no the office isn't calling. That's what we mean. We're not talking about like, hey, the planet got wiped out. We're talking about
okay. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think you just drink the Kool-Aid at that point and say goodbye. Okay.
I want to go back. My previous answer to skills is survival and camping.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, exactly.
Sorry.
I think we would go back to Italy. It was amazing there. So probably Venice.
Yeah.
There we go.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
With
I'm more of a Florence person. Yes,
with
with
a full hotel staff at a 5-star hotel.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad we clarified. Not camping in Venice. That's not.
No.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, perfect. So, Laura, take a second. Let's tell us how people can get a hold of you. Talk about your, how they can get a copy of the book, how they can get in contact with you and Josh, and everything. And you can even hold up another copy of their book and go from there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So to get in touch with me, you can Google me. But I am on Instagram at Meet the Meiers, MEETMEIERS. So that's a great way for me to follow you or you to follow me. You can get my book, The Family Nest Egg, at all major book retailers and online. And then for the law firm, you can go to meierfirm.com, MEIERFIRM.com. If you are in California and you need help with your estate plan, you could even schedule a session directly online to meet with someone on our team.
Perfect. And we will have links to all of that in the podcast description. So you don't even have to go to Google. You don't have to open another browser. It'll just be right there. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. We're really excited about hearing a little bit more about the business and marketing side and how you've really become a monster in that category. But thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you guys next time.
All righty.
Thanks, Laura. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.